something is just string. Go that way. And it's going, and it's going. And why are you... Oh, I must... I get it. I know what's going on. There we go. Oh, okay, now we're set.
Going now?
We are, yeah. All right. The first question is one, well, you're getting from Republicans right now. Isn't it heresy to take on a sitting governor who's running for re-election and who seems very popular with the party?
Well, I would have never thought that possible 3.5 years ago when the governor got elected. I was the first one of those that lost to him in the primary 4 years ago to endorse him the next morning. And I can remember the kinds of things that he promised, fiscal responsibility and solving the state's problems, including fixing K-12 education. But we need leadership that's not only going to fix our problems, but have the integrity and the courage to tell us how we're going to pay for it. And, you know, for 3 years we've been hearing fiscal responsibility and prudent budgeting. And then as the teacher pay issue started to build, repeatedly told them that there's no way we can afford a 20% increase, called the leaders of the group engaged in political theater and playing games, and then 2 days later announces that we can pay for $600 million of teacher increases and restore another $300 or $400 million of cuts that occurred back in the recession. That's $1 billion a year, and no real sustainable way to pay for it. So, I've watched this train wreck before, back in 2008, when a previous governor counted on some spikes in revenues from previous years to just carry on forever. And then when that didn't happen, they drained the rainy day fund in a matter of months. And I just can't not stand by and watch a governor of my own party say one day, this is no way we can do this, and then 2 days later, let's do it, but legislature, you figure out how to pay for it.
So that's enough for you to take on a sitting governor. You've been a Republican all your life, I think.
Absolutely.
And you're going to take on a sitting governor who's really, again, liked by the party and seems on a path for re-election.
Well, and we'll find out that. I know that this is a David and Goliath story, probably. So even though it's David and Goliath, I just cannot stand by and watch us stand on the precipice of making the same mistakes that were made about 10 years ago that put the state in the largest financial crisis of its history. And if we're going to solve the problems of the state, our leaders need to have the integrity and the courage to tell us how we're going to pay for it. The voters of this state thought it so important several years ago that if people bring new ideas to the ballot box and want to increase spending, they have to bring a dedicated source of funding to go along with it. And the voters of Arizona amended our Constitution to make sure that that happens. And if the voters want groups that try to bring new spending on board to provide for a funding source for it, then our elected leaders ought to do the same.
So it sounds like you're saying it's his 20% raise for teachers and the whole plan behind it that has led to you running for governor. It was something that just happened just 2 weeks ago.
Well, it's been built.
It's persuaded you to do this.
Well, it's more than that. We heard a few years ago that Prop 123 would solve most of our problems in K-12, and most of the money would go to teachers. That he told us that $350 million of additional funds a year, $3.5 billion over a 10-year period, would be going to education. If you check the records, you find out that it was barely half that that came out of Prop 123, and it wasn't all new money. There was already a formula in state law that paid some of the money out to the schools each year, and it was increased, but only by about $2 billion. And if half of the new money that he had promised had gone to teacher salaries, there would have been about a 6% teacher salary increase each of the last 3 years. We'd be close to the 20% already. We were told in that same debate over Prop 123 that we wouldn't take any money out of the principal or the corpus of the trust fund. And yet if you look at the first year when distributions were made under the new formula that Prop 123 put in, we took $170 million out of the trust fund principal. That $170 million being gone forever now will cost the school districts in this state $120 million over just the next 10 years.
You're getting calls from Republicans.
On both sides.
On both sides?
Many saying don't run, and Ken, thank goodness we need somebody who's going to tell the public that the emperor doesn't have any clothes on, that we're being promised something that he has no real, I think, sustainable plan on how to pay for it. And that's why I think you see the unbelievable reaction by the teachers to say, we want 20%, we want 20%, and no, we can't do 20%, no, we can't do 20%. And then when he says, okay, I'll give you 20%, yay, probably for a few minutes, and then they thought, okay, now how are you going to pay for it? And when that was not evident or put forward, now they're even backing off as to their support of that plan.
You're probably going to see the governor tonight at the Lincoln Reagan dinner in Prescott.
Yes.
What are you going to say to him? What's he going to say to you?
I'll say, good evening, Governor. Welcome to Prescott. I don't know what he'll say back to me.
Expecting a little persuasion?
Oh, I'm sure.
Lots of people want to know, are we going to see the Kleenex boxes again?
Well, I go around the state and people either know me for Kleenex boxes or the guitar. And some people love the Kleenex boxes. Others say, man, if I see another Kleenex box, I'll die, Bennett. So we might see something. I don't know if it'll be styrofoam blocks or what charts, whatever it takes to communicate to the people of this state how close we are to the precipice of repeating the mistakes that were made by a previous governor in 2008, committing large amounts of spending, hoping on some couple years, Ducey's doing it on a couple months, of temporary bump in revenue and assuming that that's just going to carry on for several years. And I watched that kind of thinking plunge the state into its biggest financial crisis in its history, and I cannot stand by and allow a governor, even from my own party, to propose doing the same thing again.
Last question. This is big for your own party. Arizona Republicans support Donald Trump very strongly. Can you say you embrace all of the president's policies?
The ones that I know and have heard about, I completely support President Trump. He might not do everything exactly the way I would do it, but the things that he's trying to do, keep us safe, secure the border, make sure that we have fair trade, and put us on a path of growing the economy, appointing judges that will follow the law instead of trying to make up their own. All of those and many other policies, energy independence, all of those and many other policies, I think, are what America needs.